Part 3 in the series. If you haven't seen 1 or 2, please see them first. Enjoy.
The Sumerian cuneiform writing was a revolution. Every conquering kingdom of Sumeria adopted it. It is even thought to have inspired Egyptians to create their own script. It spread geographically and was to be used by the later Persian Empire, while the technical inventions of the potter's wheel and the wheeled cart appear to have emerged from Sumerian civilization. It is the successive Babylonian astronomers who preserved their mathematics and number system. By the 23rd century BC, the power of the Sumerians had declined to such an extent that they could no longer defend themselves against foreign invasion. The cause of this was the endemic problem that besets most great civilizations: internal disputes, greed and power struggles. So weak had the country become that the Semitic ruler Sargon the Great in the 24th century BC succeeded in conquering the entire country. Sargon founded a new capital called Agade in the far north of Sumer and made it the richest and most powerful city in the then known world. The people of northern Sumer and the conquering invaders eventually interbred, and the people became known as Akkadians. The land of Sumer acquired the composite name Sumer and Akkad. This young civilization was not to flourish, however, and another race of people, the Elamites from modern-day Iran, attacked around 2004 BC, conquering the principal city of Ur. It was in turn sacked and burned, but later rebuilt by the Babylonians. During the next centuries further, bitter intercity struggles for the control of Sumer and Akkad occurred. It was Hammurabi of Babylon became the sole ruler of Sumer and Akkad around 1763 BC. This date technically marks the end of the Sumerian state. Sumerian civilization, however, was adopted in its entirety by Babylon, which brings us back to the Jupiter cuneiform tablet. This wartime of Hammurabi, 1800 BC, was not the time to invent calculus. Like everything else, it was a Sumerian gift to the world, and the successive Babylons simply preserved it. The Sumerians completely disappeared as a people. Their language lived on as a language of culture, while their writing, their business organizations, their scientific knowledge, and their mythology spread westward by the Babylonians and Assyrians. If it were not for the Babylonian record keepers, we may have never known the profound level of mathematics they acquired. There is a major clue to their scientific knowledge and legacy in the base 60 Sumerian number system. The Jupiter calculation tablet even uses a 60-day count. They were obsessed with the unit 60. It was simply embedded in their thought process. Nobody explains professionally why they were calculating the precise position of Jupiter, or why they used the base 60 system in the first place. It is waved as a superstition by the very science journals that published the find. Because Jupiter is associated with their god Marduk, this advanced math is regulated to the superstitious astrology and omens department. True, there was no segregation between astrology and astronomy in all ancient cultures. The Babylonian kings likely utilized their astronomers and mathematicians to give omens and divination, at times to demonstrate their power and prestige. Precession of the equinoxes, the motion of the equinoxes along the plane of Earth's orbit, must have been known for centuries. It has an incredible link to the base 60 system that is never addressed. In compiling his famous star catalogue, completed in 1029 BC, the Greek astronomer Hipparchus noticed that the positions of the stars was shifted in a systematic way from earlier Babylonian measures. Despite this known fact, the Greeks are still accredited with discovering precession. This indicated that it was not the stars that were moving, but rather the observing platform, Earth. Such a motion is called precession and consists of a cycle wobbling with a period of 25,920 years. This gives the famed 12 zodiacal ages of 2,160 years apiece. The 12 zodiacal ages that make up 25,920 is often referred to as the Great Year. Amazingly, the Great Year is exactly divisible by 60, 432 divisions of 60 to be precise. Each zodiacal age, for example, the age of Aquarius, the age of Pisces, is 2,160 and also exactly divisible by 60. 6 times 6 times 60, or 6 times 360. Simply speaking, if you wanted to choose a number system to deal with calculating precession, 60 is the number one choice. Precession in solar years is a natural base 60 system. If you have 100 cents to a dollar and 100 people to give it to, you simply would use the decimal system because it's intuitively natural to do so. You can break up the day into as many hours as you want. It's arbitrary, really. The same goes for hours, minutes, and seconds. However, there is a dedicated number of solar years within the Great Year of precession, and that number happens to be divisible by 60. For the Sumerian savants and their intellectually absorbent successive kingdoms, they must have known this and likely built their math system around it. They certainly studied the stars for centuries. Seeing a long cycle like precession is a given, considering the Greeks used their data to discover it for themselves. In Hamlet's Mill, authors Santillana and Bondechend state that ancient myths have no historical basis, but a cosmological one based on a primitive form of astrology. They recognize the importance of the heliacally rising constellations as markers for the astrological ages and claimed that knowledge of this phenomenon had been known for thousands of years previously. The heliacal rising of a constellation is the rising of the constellation at sunrise on the equinox, essentially. We get a new one every 2,160 years, and we go through the 12 of these until we come full circle. They claim that to understand ancient thinking, it is necessary to understand astrology, not the modern sun sign or horoscopic astrology, but the astrology of ancient times, which was the common language then. They go further and state that our knowledge of the dawn of astrology and its relationship to ancient myths and star names is limited to about 2100 BC, during the renaissance of Sumerian culture, instead of being able to examine the real old material on the subject. Author Philip Drummond makes his case that at the time of Abraham, the Amorites first recorded the shift from the age of Taurus to the age of Aries, as represented by the year commencing with the ram, Aries, rather than the bull, Taurus. The book of Joshua indicates that by the time of Moses, the equinoxes had already shifted from Taurus, Aries, as Moses had ordained that the civil year should commence with the month of Nisan, Aries, rather than the month of Taurus. The Feast of Passover is probably a celebration of the age of Aries, with a paschal lamb representative of Aries, traditionally associated with a symbol of the ram or sheep.
It's the end of part 3. Sub me, like it and share if you will, and get ready for part 4, final in the series.